You are listening to the Capsule in Conversation podcast, dedicated to women and their well-being. I'm Natalie Anderson, and today I'm joined by meteorologist and GMB weather host Laura Tobin to talk tackling climate change, building mental resistance, and mastering motherhood on a 4 a.m. schedule. So sit back, relax, and get ready to join us in our conversation. Hello all, thank you so much for tuning in. I am delighted to be welcoming my lovely new guest today. We have known each other for some time and we've got a lot of ground to cover. As the face of Good Morning Britain's weather for over a decade, she is the trusted meteorologist who, alongside bringing us her daily bulletins, has been effectively raising awareness of climate change in more recent years. Filming special pieces on location to highlight the real threat back at home, she's also written the brilliant book Everyday Ways to Save Our Planet to give us all some useful information on how we can be part of the solution. She is the brilliant Laura Tobin. Hi, Laura.
Yeah, I feel like I should just get you to introduce me everywhere I go, every day. I feel like a rock star now.
I'm available. I can do it. What about me every morning instead of instead of Susanna or Richard or Ed or anybody? Well, I've got a great intro for Laura.
The obvious thing is it just, as you said, it means a 4 a.m. start, so maybe not.
I know. Well, I've done breakfast and I was like, this is hard. I don't know how you guys did it, which is obviously how you and I met, you know, which is a long time ago now, but it feels like just like a blink of an eye ago.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
I mean, you are always my go-to with how my day is going to go. You know, if I check in on you and I go, right, Laura, come on, tell me what's going on. And whatever you deliver will basically tell me what my mood's going to be, whether it's the sun, whether it's the wind, whether it's the rain. But you know what? You're the only one that ever gets it right.
Oh, well, see, there we go. I mean, they say there's never bad weather, just the wrong clothes. And that, you know, as long as you know what I'm saying, and you dress appropriately, particularly when you're on the school run, which I didn't do yesterday. I picked up Charlotte and it was raining after ballet and I had to I took her cardigan off her, put it on my head to walk home.
Oh.
I know, we all get caught out.
We do. I mean, to be fair, though, it's very rare for you. Like I say, we've seen you in all kinds of weathers, you know, in all kinds of locations and places. And, you know, we'll obviously talk more about that as we go on. But I want to go back to the very beginning, because one of the most fascinating things I found out about you when I was researching was that A, you never wanted to be on TV, and B, you rang up the Met Office at 14 years old after a geography lesson. Right, explain this to me.
I know. I feel like my bosses shouldn't hear that I don't technically sound like I want my job. I do. I like my job. So, I mean, like, it's a bit of I feel like it's like, I'm a geek and I think geeks are cool, but it's almost a bit of a loser thing. But like, so my geography teacher at 14 did a topic on the weather and he did a topic on the jet stream. And the jet stream, I now realize, is everything. It transports weather fronts and warm air and cold air around the world. But basically, he got us to line up as a straight row of girls and a straight row of boys. And he said, run across the classroom, bumping into each other, see what happens when you get to the other side. And we're running around, we're pushing each other. And by the time we get to the other side, it's a like higgledy-piggledy mess. And we just thought we were going to be in trouble. And he was like, that is the jet stream. It's warm air bumping into cold air. It's a battleground setup. And every single time, you know, you were to do that again and again and again, your outcome on the other side would be different. He's like, and that's the weather. That's how it works every single day. And I just had this like light bulb moment at 14. I was like, I love it. I want that to be my job. So like I phoned the Met Office that day. I was like, how do I become a weather forecaster? And they said, oh, you've got to do A-level maths and physics. And for a 14-year-old girl, why do they have? I liked maths anyway, but if I had to do physics, I was like, no. But I ended up loving it. I ended up falling in love with physics, and my degree was half physics, half meteorology at University of Reading. So yeah, it just worked out. Like, how lucky.
I mean, I think personally, though, it comes across how passionate you are. It really, really comes across. And I think that is why we can relate to you and we can take your word as gospel because we know how passionate you are about it, and that you will have gone through absolutely every scenario to bring us like the best possible version of what's happening. I mean, even, you know, with, and we'll get to that a little bit later, but like the climate report that just happened, you know, all of this stuff that's really important and can genuinely affect our overall well-being. You know, we talk about vitamin D, we talk about the sunshine, we talk about people struggling in the winter. You know, what you say can have a massive impact on people. You know, and it's funny, like we said, technically you said you never wanted to be on TV, but you very much do now. You very much do, and you're excellent at it. Let's just say that for GMB, because she is amazing. But how did that job come about?
So my very first job as a forecaster for the Met Office was doing something you would never even think of. I was in Cardiff at their civil centre doing public use forecasts. So I would do forecasts for the rail company, because if it's going to be very wet, very windy or cold on the tracks, it will impact the speed that the trains can travel and whether there's cancellations or disruption. Giving forecasts to the energy company about how cloudy or warm or cold it's going to be, because if it's cloudy, you're more likely to put on your lights, which means they need more electricity. The colder it is, you need more heating, so you put on your heating. So my weather forecast would decide how much energy they would produce so that there was just enough. I used to do the hill walking forecast, the gritting forecast, so the routes that there'll be sub-zero. So I kind of learned where weather is important in day-to-day life without us all even realizing how those forecasts just happen in the background and we can all get on with our lives every day. And then I had a job at Bryce Norton at RAF base with pilots flying all over the world. So my world weather knowledge was like whoosh, and it like grew massively. And as soon as you're a girl who's like in your early 20s and you do meteorology, everyone just says, "Are you going to be a weather girl?" And I just found that like phrase really insulting, because they're suggesting that you're going to stand and point, you don't know what you're talking about. And I was like, well, I've studied really hard. I do know what I'm talking about. And I don't want you to think that I don't. So I just won't do that job. But then a job came up at the BBC Weather Centre, and my boss said, look, you know, we got to swap around roles. And he said, look, it'd be really good for you to just give it a go. I was like, I don't want to do it. And he was like, just go and have a look. And actually, that is a life lesson that will hold forever. You've got to give everything a go. How do you know you don't want to do something unless you try it? So I went and I joined the team, and it was amazing. You had a bench that was a forecaster bench, talking to the producers, talking to the news editor, talking to the regions, so that the story was consistent and you made sure the weather was a priority. You had all radio from Radio 1 to Radio 4, shipping forecasts, all TV broadcasts, different channels, different audiences, and it was just so much more involved than I thought. And I thought, no, like this is much more involved than I thought. And it paid more money as well. I'm not going to lie.
But like Andrea McLean did the weather as well, didn't she? You know, like she's another one who she would consider herself like a geeky girl. She likes, exactly. She studied hard and, did journalism and everything else. And obviously, so she kind of wanted to pursue that for the time being. But I suppose for you, your passion for the actual weather in terms of it as a grander subject, it's very, very clear. It's very clear. You really know your stuff. There's so much science behind everything and kind of what you're saying, and the way I think as well that GMB have really supported your the work that you want to do, and being able to kind of discuss climate change and again go off and do special pieces for them. I mean, going on to that, you have filmed in some incredible locations, but goodness. Give me some of your highs and some of your lows.
So the best thing that I have ever done at work was going to Svalbard. So Svalbard, I should know, my geography should be good, but I didn't know exactly where it was. It's a tiny little island in between Norway and the North Pole. So you think it's just off Norway, but it's like much further away. And we went there a year and a half ago to look at the impacts of climate change. So we had this special data that said Svalbard is warming more than anywhere on planet Earth, like nearly 6 times faster. And because it's warming so quickly, the visual impacts of climate change are so happening so quickly and so rapidly, you can see them in like a generation or less than that. So, and we got criticized for flying there. Obviously flying causes emissions. Emissions are bad for the planet, makes it warm. But we talked about, whether we should go, whether that negative impact would be paid off by the positive impact of going. And our decision was that it would be. And, the funny thing is, like, I'm a scientist through and through. I'd read the cryosphere report, which is the report about frozen things on the planet. I'd spoken to the scientists, and I was like, well, I know what I'm going to find. Like, I've been there, like I've been there in the science. I know the glaciers are retreating. I know this, and this. I was not prepared for how it would feel to be there and feel to see it and the impact and everything. So we met a guy from the tourist board. He took us out to a glacier. First off, we went on a fjord that was called the Ice Fjord. There's no ice there. It doesn't freeze over anymore. 2017, the first summer it didn't freeze over. He had to phone the first winter it didn't freeze over. He had to phone everyone and say, you can't come. There'll be no sledging. There'll be no husky riding. There'll be no this. He had to have 2 years of no business because the weather had changed so much, it had warmed so much that he hadn't got the ice, so he's had to change his whole business model. Then the waters around there should be Arctic waters, cold with Arctic fish, but they're now getting warmer. It's more like Atlantic water, Atlantic fish. The polar bears don't want that kind of fish. They're swimming further, so the water's changing. The polar bears are dying because they can't get all the food and the nutrition that they need. The reindeer are dying in droves because when it snows, they can go through the snow and get the vegetation, but it will rain and then it freezes and their little hooves can't break through the ice, so they haven't got the food. And I met this guy who took us on a trek, and we stood on a bit of like rubble, just like bare ground. And he said, 40 years ago when I arrived, and I was literally turning 40 the next week, he said, this is where the glacier ended. And we looked up the hill like half a mile, and that's where it ended. And then he was like, and look up. We looked up 10 meters, and like that whole volume of ice is gone. So I saw the landscape change, and then the tourism change, and the change on the people and change on the animals. And I was like, wow, it just like, it was really affected by it. I was literally writing the book at the time, and my daughter like had written a letter for the polar bears to say that she was sorry that their ice was melting. And I got really emotional because I just was like, oh my God, I want her to be able to come and see what I've seen and it not to have changed. Potentially if we keep going the way we're going, there'll be no reindeer, no polar bear, no glaciers. And I don't want that. I want her to see it all and experience it all. So it was like the best and also the worst thing I've done because it was highs and lows.
I mean, that piece in particular, it really resonated with a lot of people and it got a lot of traction, and it really did make people stand up and go, oh my God, like this is really happening. You were quite emotional on part of the broadcast, and I suppose in a lot of ways, like I was saying, you're so relatable, and then for you to have experienced that shock kind of on air and to have gone through that process in that piece kind of made us at home sit up and go, oh my God. And then you combine that with like the California wildfires, the floods, in Australia and in India. We all start to kind of go, hold on a minute, this climate change thing that, people seem to think is a bit of is a myth. Clearly isn't. There's something more going on. And do you think that initiatives like huge ones like the Earthshot Prize and like the fact that King Charles is so much of his agenda is about protecting the environment and has been for many years, but yet has never been listened to, do you think that's helpful in terms of like just growing awareness on a more mainstream level?
Yes, I mean, what I learned from a lovely guy when I went to Svalbard, a guy called Kim Holman, who was a professor at the Norwegian Polar Institute, is there is nothing that we can do to tackle climate change that is bad for us or the planet. The benefits will be saving us money. It will make us healthier. If I choose to walk to school, it's cheap, right? It's completely free. We learn loads of stuff on the way. We're breathing air that is polluted, but if fewer people drove, the air would be fresher. We've got exercise, it's great. And actually, one of the biggest things we can do to tackle climate change is to talk about it. So, Prince Charles talking about it. I actually met a lovely guy called Tony Juniper, who wrote the Ladybird book of climate change with Prince Charles, or now King Charles. And he was saying how great he was and how big an advocate he was. I'm going to an event soon. David Attenborough got the unveiling of this big virtual sort of studio looking at the planet. So anything anybody can do to highlight climate change is a big thing. And I know lots of people, I understand, think, well, the government needs to do this, and is it really us, and is it really me? But it's everybody making changes. But the thing that it can make you feel really down, really negative, and what I've learned from going to the COPs recently, you meet so many people doing so many great things. And this is the point of this, like the climate report that came out today. We have all the technology we need pretty much to get to our net zero emissions. we just need to upscale them. So all these people that they highlight doing all these amazing things, if money can be thrown at them and they can be upscaled, then we've got it, we can fix it. So yeah,
I think that is like the point of the Earthshot Prize, wasn't it? Like saying, spotlighting people that were doing amazing things and saying you can win £1 million and let's try and kind of grow this and get the recognition it deserves. But then on the other side, you've got, and I get that they're trying to do a great job, is the Extinction Rebellion, who are then kind of just causing chaos and upsetting people. And then the message is getting lost. And it is a really important subject, what they're talking about. But that must be quite frustrating for you in some capacity, that you think, oh, I really support what you're talking about, but is there a better way to do this?
I see what they're doing, and you need to make an impact. Like people go on strike, you make an impact to impact people's lives, and they say, I want to make a change. They want people to then write to their politicians and say, these people are so unhappy that they're doing this. If you write to your politician, apparently if you get like a politician gets 4 or 5 letters, it represents like 1,000 of their constituents, and they start to go, oh no, and they have to act on it and actually start to make changes. So that's their point. If you're that annoyed about what we're doing, don't have a go at us, have a go at your politician and say you want change. I think it's okay if it's like petrol stations, because they are the oil giants, and that will impact all of us. It impacts our journey. We all need to get around in our cars. But sticking your hands to roads and then delaying people getting into hospital, that I can see why there's that frustration. So there's definitely a fine line, but I think targeting the people who are the biggest polluters, I can see why you would do that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, your book is definitely a better way to kind of permeate into the mainstream. There it is. And, there's some of the things in there, like, oh my God, when I was reading the research, I was like, are you kidding me? I mean, for example, like tea. I did not know this, and I love tea. We drink 100 million cups of tea a day, and 96% of people use tea bags, and they have plastic in.
Yeah, I know.
Oh my God.
If you put them in your compost, you see the skeleton shell just appearing. So yeah, like my husband, can I just say, when I was writing this book, literally every day was like, what crazy harebrained green scheme are we going to go with today? And he just used to get really annoyed. But one thing I talk about a lot is he is really tight. Like, it's not that it's kind or not kind, I don't know. He's really tight. He loves to save money. Loads of things we do already to save money also save the planet, and that's a really big thing that I don't think people necessarily realize. But we went to loose leaf tea. He loves drinking tea, and you know what, it's much tastier, and he really loves it. You put it in a little teapot, it brews, and so yeah, I'm all for real tea. And like also takeaway cups. I don't actually drink tea or coffee, but I think the fact is, I think that 70% of us have a reusable coffee cup. We all feel great because we've got one. 1 in 6 of us ever take it out. So that's a tiny thing, but you just think, take it with me.
Well, this is it. You've put here, like, if all of us made one change, that would be 67 million changes. Yeah. 67 million. And, we talk about, I mean, for us on this podcast, we talk a lot, obviously, about beauty, about wellness, about well-being. And one of those things, to look at is bathroom waste, and also sanitary towels and waste. 1 pack of sanitary towels has 4 plastic bags worth of plastic, and the average woman uses 11,000 in a lifetime. We've talked about, and we've seen like menstrual cups, and we've seen various other devices that you can use, or ways that you can protect yourself in terms of your sanitary requirements that don't have to rely on plastic. We've seen tampons that have been kind of reconfigured so that they're not containing all those plastics. And it's something that we really, really should be paying more attention to, isn't it?
And like, my first thing was I tried to do everything in my book at the same time, and my brain was about to explode. But the bathroom was one of the first things I did. And there's this like hierarchy triangle. It used to be reduce, reuse, recycle. And now I think it's rethink, refuse, reduce, repair, reuse, recycle, rot. So like the first thing is just rethink. Anytime you buy something, is there a green alternative? But don't go out and like, ages ago, Boris was like, if you want to save energy, buy a new kettle that's more efficient. No, if your kettle's not broken, don't get rid of it. So the first thing I did in my bathroom was just go through everything, take a stock check, and then use up what I had. The same in your cupboards, using what you have. I will now never, although it's exciting, never get a reusable, like the little tiny shampoo bottles from hotels. I don't need them. I don't need them. Why do I get them? I've got no idea. So I use everything in my bathroom, and then once everything was gone, I then went down the route of buying stuff that wasn't plastic. So I have a shampoo bar, a conditioner bar, an exfoliating body bar. When it was my birthday, I said to my best friends, I want products that are not in plastic. So I've got a moisturizer that's in a paper tub that can be refilled. I've got a tin face wash. And then my razor is metal. My sanitary pads are reusable. My bamboo toothbrush, toothpaste tablets. So yeah, no plastic in our bathroom.
I mean, that's an achievement. That really is an achievement. But like you said, if you look at it in smaller doses and think, right, okay, what can I do? So starting by using everything that you have. God, so many of us, and especially with kids, so many of us have got stuff that's half used, that's a bit of this and a bit of that. And then we go and buy new ones. And then you go, oh, somebody's coming over. Oh, let's buy a new one. And it's like, oh, God, no. So, we've tried to definitely switch across to getting refillable. So, like, we have glass jars and then we'll refill and get the packs instead, which are much, much better if you've got a tub at home. And rather than buying all of the plastic stuff, then you just get like a refillable and use that instead. And the other thing that drives me mad is the plastic waste on food. I mean, honestly, the amount of it's another one that you've put here somewhere about the cling film. Honestly, I blew my mind going through all of this. The cling film of how much of that we use, and the fact that we eat a credit card size of plastic every week. Yeah. Now, where does that come from? Like when we're consuming it, where does that come from?
So a lot of it comes from the plastic then goes into waterways. So the crazy fact is, of all the plastic that's ever been made on Earth, we've only ever recycled 9% of it. So 91% of all plastic we've ever made, one of the best things ever made, plastic is fantastic, is either in landfill or it's in the oceans. And then it's in the oceans or it's in the rivers. So cattle and livestock drink it and fish will eat it. So it comes from the food that we consume that way, which is crazy. And the tiny microplastics that break down.
But like you said, we are consuming it, and it is getting into our bloodstream, and it's getting into us as human beings and changing the ecosystem, and obviously it's a very fragile ecosystem. And I mean, there are so many other issues. We were just saying yesterday, obviously one of the easiest ways for us, I think, to cut down on a lot of things is slowing down fast fashion. We've seen a massive, a huge rise in that over the last 4 to 5 years. I remember I was banging on about it probably 2017, 2018. Why can't everybody just wear the clothes that they have? I know.
So we wear 20% of our wardrobe 80% of the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a crazy one. And fashion is 10% of all of the world's emissions. So flying is 2.5%. So 4 times everyone's flying is fashion. And yeah, I think if you buy something that's inexpensive, you like to buy lots of it, not really love it, and then maybe just throw it away. That doesn't mean that people who work for those companies, shouldn't be employed. They should have better working conditions and better pay. But if everybody bought fewer things, made them last longer. My friends are all now doing vintage for everything, because actually we're in a cost of living crisis. Mm-hmm. People want new clothes. Speaking to my sister-in-law, she's just vinted her whole wardrobe and got a whole new summer wardrobe. It's cost her basically nothing. So, this is one of those things it saves you money.
It's easy to do. It saves you money. Exactly. It was like 235 million tons of clothing waste in landfill in 2019. And crazy. Even things like, even when you look at kind of the fabrics, it takes 200 years to break down polyester. I didn't know that. And I was like, oh my God, so 200 years, that's such a long time. But if we are smart with it and we keep using what we've already got, and we're not buying any more and not putting any more in, then it's just making those smarter little choices, isn't it? Turning the lights off. I mean, like you've said, we are in a cost of living crisis, so more people are being aware of that now anyway.
And loads of people have said that to me at work. I make the kids boil just the water they need. I've made them turn everything off at the wall and make them turn down the lights. If you lower your thermostat by 1 degree, that's 10% off your energy bill. So all of these, 68 million, all these little tiny changes add up to a lot.
I mean, if we go back to you, and your kind of your life and the way that you think about things, obviously you do work in live television. You've done some incredible Daredevil kind of stuff. I mean, let me just go back here. Didn't you? Yeah, you did. You abseiled the Blackpool Tower.
Yeah.
Live on air. How did you do that?
I accidentally dropped the F-bomb as well.
Did you?
Yeah, I know. I didn't mean to. So basically they invited us to clean the windows, and it's something they do once a year. but I thought it was a thing, but it wasn't a thing. Like they attach the ropes, and it's all very safe. It's not like a paid attraction that, you know, people do over and over. And they've got loads of people who work there to be tourists on the floor that you can stand on. Cameraman outside with me, and then the guy inside. And then we're like, okay, we're coming to you in 2 minutes. It's like, 2 minutes, I'm not ready in 2 minutes. And they're like, you'll be fine. And so Ben's like, I'll just film while she's talking. And then I went go over the edge, and it kind of moved a little bit more than I was thinking. And I went, oh F. And then Ben went, oh, sorry, don't worry about her, she's just really nervous. And I was like, you were on me, I had no idea. Oh no.
I mean, it is terrifying because half the time you don't know when they're on you. You think they're on you because they say, oh, we're coming to you we're coming to you in 30, we're coming to you in 10. And there is that slight delay, isn't there? And you're like, ah, and you think, I want to be ready, but I'm not quite ready. And it is terrifying. I mean, you've done also the world's fastest zip wire.
Oh, yes. In North Wales, that was amazing. You have to wear goggles so your eyes don't pop out. It's like over 100 miles an hour, and you go so fast you can't breathe. It's great. It's crazy.
I mean, Helen, so we've had both Helen Skelton and Jenny Faulkner on this podcast as well, who have both,
great.
You know, done live television, you know, Blue Peter presenting. And they both, I was like, how on earth do you do it? Like, live television, as much as I've done it and I enjoy it, I'm still kind of, no, I'm not doing the roller coasters. I can't do this. I can't do that. I very much say, these are my boundaries. I mean, do you think you're a bit of an adrenaline junkie?
Do you know what? I just think it stems back to the whole, when I wasn't going to have this job, I didn't, just never say never. Just give everything a go. Like all these opportunities and things I've got to do, you have to just do it. I remember walking past the features desk one day, and they went, and then Laura's going to upside down the spinnaker. I was like, well, hang on. What was that? They're like, oh, there you are. Oh, okay, hi. And then I did it like the week later. They had all these great ideas. So do you know what? It's a great, you know, they want to send me, I'm in. I'll do it because why not?
You're so brave. Honestly, like you're so brave. And I mean, you know, we talk about when you had your daughter Charlotte. Now you had Charlotte at 27 weeks, which was, you know, premature and kind of must have been quite a scary time for you. But do you think like the job that you're in, the fact that everything is fast paced and quick moving and changing very quickly helped you kind of cope with that time?
I think this might be weird. Being a scientist helped, and also being exceptionally competitive helped. So I have a twin brother, and the two of us, we don't have any other siblings. Our entire life has been without being forced to be, who can swim 10 meters first, 15 meters, 25 meters, who can do the time step, who's GCSEs, A levels, like our whole lives have just been compete. So I am fiercely competitive in everything I've ever done. I've wanted to win because it's just how I've been brought up. So, you know, when I was in hospital, one, I'm a scientist and not a biologist, but I understand science. So we just asked loads of questions, you know, what is this? What does this mean? Tell me about that. They were like, oh, this is just an oxygen thing. This is just this thing. And I'm like, no, I need to know that. Tell me about the milk. How many, you know, millimeters per gram of child do you have? Like, I just wanted to know everything. And I kept a diary every day, and I wrote down lots of the scientific things that would happen. And sometimes I'd like correct the doctors. I'd be like, oh no, she said this many doses of medicine, I know, because I tallied it up. And like, you know, I took it as a complete mission to like, so a baby who's premature can't breastfeed because they can't suck, swallow and breathe until about 32 weeks gestation. And even then they would be so tired doing that they try and tube feed them. But for me, I had a spreadsheet, and I had timetabled my expressing sessions, you know, and I used to like tally them up, and I'd tick them off, and I'd take them to the morning. It's like, I can't do anything else. You know, I can't be a medical machine. I can't be a doctor. I could sit next to her incubator all day. But the one thing I could do was pump milk. so, you know, that's, and understand the science, understand what they were talking about, and have an opinion about things and question things. So that helped me. I really enjoyed that. Not a lot of, I don't know if everyone would have enjoyed that, but I actually did.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, give me a job and I'll do it the best of my ability. Like you said, that competitive nature of yours, even if it's with kind of yourself, is like, I will absolutely know what is the best for my daughter, and I will challenge you. And again, the scientist in you that will push those boundaries and go, well, should we just accept that? Or, you know, should we go again? Should we try again? And that kind of nature. But also to have, I suppose, the mission in a way of making sure that she was safe and healthy. And then obviously, you know, you kind of went into, we had COVID then, didn't we? And you kind of described that in a lot of ways, that as much as it was a terrifying time for lots of people, it was quite a lovely time for you and for Charlotte.
Great. It was weird because when you are scared of germs, like we all were in COVID, we were scared of germs for her when we got home from hospital. They're so weak, their immune system is so low, and any cold they catch, so she caught a cold a month off being in hospital, was back in hospital, back on oxygen. And we were like, oh, why did we go? We went to a coffee shop in the corner of a room for like, there was one other person, and we was like, we swear that's how it happened. And we used to just go for fresh air walks, and we didn't, if someone said, oh, do you want to come, can we come for a cup of tea or go to theirs, we would check if they were well or not well. And if someone came to our house, they had to wash their hands, sanitize their hands. If they wanted a hug, they had to wear a clean blanket on them. Like, we were crazy. But I think when COVID happened, people were like, oh, they've got a cold, don't go near them. Don't touch them. You've just touched that. You've been to the supermarket, come back, wash your hands. You know, we got it. So actually, for us as a family, being outdoors, having fresh air, going out and about made us feel really comfortable and safe. And having actually, you know, when people have new babies, they get loads of visitors. Well, we really limited that. And it meant that we were, I think, really able to kind of bond as a family and not have to kind of go, oh my God, we have to have people come around, we need tea and coffee in the house, we need cakes, you know, like we didn't have to do all that. So when we went into COVID, for us, it was just like going back into what we knew. And I think that, yes, in many senses, COVID was horrible, but lots of people said about how they reconnected with nature, they had a slower pace of life, they could just concentrate on family more and who was going where what weekend. So yeah, it was easy for us.
My son says he misses it all the time. He's like, I really miss it. He's like, I miss that we were all together, and I miss that we could go out for walks, and I miss that everybody was, you know, like nicer. That's the one. These are the things that he took away from it was, and I think that's it's quite nice to know that lots of children had that experience. You know, obviously not everybody did, but it's nice to think that during what was a terrifying time at points, you know, some people did have some really nice takeaways from it. I mean, now obviously she's a little bit older, is Charlotte, so how on earth do you show up to work looking like you do when you start the day and she's still quite little? How
I mean, I've never needed a lot of sleep. That's always a good thing. And you know, when I used to work at the BBC, I had crazy shifts, like earliest days, late nights, they were all over, whereas my shifts now are just early, you know, so I work 5 days a week but just early. So, you know, I get up, I get to work, and it's not terrible. I look terrible when I arrive, you know, your clothes are hanging there and someone does your hair and makeup. It's marvelous, you know. So, and then I finish work and I've always got lots of other projects and things going on. If I get a chance, I'll come home and nap. Maybe that might happen once a week, but I'm just happy I'm happy being busy, and I pick her up from school every day. And so my husband takes her every day and I pick her up every day. And then we play all evening, do our homework and our spellings, and all that's already ramping up. We have a couple of clubs we go to. And then, yeah, when she goes to bed about 7:30, that's when I then get back into work mode, you know, catch up on my emails, to have a shower, get her work, school clothes ready, her packed lunch ready, my clothes ready for work, and then sit and have a glass of wine and then go, we'll do it all again tomorrow.
So basically you're doing kind of the same thing, just like in a slightly different time frame.
Just skew it different ways. But I try to make sure that, you know, from pickup to bedtime, I try and be as present as possible. Sometimes it's unavoidable doing some work, but I try and be as present as possible in that time. Yeah.
I mean, you've written this lovely letter at the start of your book, and how, you know, you've talked about how you really want to kind of make sure you protect the planet for her and for her generation, and you've described her as your own little eco warrior. Just tell me about like some of the habits that she's got as well when it comes to kind of protecting the environment.
She will just pick up things that I just think us as adults just take for granted or don't think about. So when I started to explain to her rubbish and recycling, composting, etc., we'd take stuff to our bins, you know, there's 3 bins to choose from. She goes, Mummy, which bin's this going in? I said, well, this is going in the rubbish bin. And she's like, so you dig a hole in the ground, you put the rubbish in, and you just cover it up and forget about it. I'm like, oh, like when you put it like that, it's really mean. That like it's really terrible that we're doing that to our planet. We do just throw it away and then just forget about it. Like throw away is not a magical place that exists. Throw away is literally putting in waste and pollution into our earth, you know. So she'll go, Mummy, no, you know. So this is why we're really hot on our recycling, you know. Recycling it sounds really stupid. Recycling is simple, but it's also really difficult. That's why we're terrible at it in this country. I think about 45% of our waste we recycle. In Germany, it's about 60 or 70% because they're just much better at it. So like I try really hard with recycling for the plastic that we have to have. And I have loads of bags in the garage for stuff that can't be recycled curbside that I take to supermarkets or I take to TerraCycle sites and things, because I can't. So if I put something in the bin, you'll be like, Mummy, does that need to go there? I'm like, oh, no, let's just look through. I'm like, oh, no, we can save that. And like we have a walk to school, and it's quite a busy road, actually. And there's loads of litter on it all the time. People just throw it out the window. And she's always like, Mummy, why do they throw the litter out the window? And actually, I don't know. But so we litter pick like once a week on the way home. And she loved it. And the other day she did something really good in drama. And I was at the shop and I thought, I want to get her something, but I don't want to get her like a chocolatey treat. It's got this little toy. And she just went, Mummy, this is plastic. Do plastic. I was like, okay, sorry. Yeah, you're right. But we've never bought her, I don't think, this year we got her a scooter, but we've never bought her a new present. We've always bought her a pre-loved, like, second-hand present, you know, whether it was a bike, whether it was her doll's house, whether it was a princess castle, and all those things, like those big dolls, whatever they're called, they're really expensive, and the clothes, you know. So we always just make sure we buy pre-loved, because
you see what you've just said there, you see, that is, I mean, there's so much stigma attached still, isn't there, to things that are pre-loved. I mean, it's not as much now as like when we were a lot younger, but I definitely feel like that is the way forward, like pass things on. Like we used to do it generations ago. We used to do it then. It's really difficult though when you've got the Instagram culture of brand new, grandiose, like everything's like, you know, lush and everything's so wealthy and wealth, and you're trying to do the right thing and trying to, you know, shop smaller and shop local or just pass things on, and you've got like this war of cultures, I suppose, in a lot of ways, and trying to kind of fight against it. I think if we stick to our old school morals and old school grounds, we will definitely get there. I mean, before we have to finish up though, alongside protecting the environment, how do you personally protect your own like health and well-being? Like, what are your go-tos? What products do you use? What do you like?
So I would say I'm probably not very good at any of those things. I don't have very much me time at all. But I feel like I don't know how, I'm a very mentally resilient person. You know, obviously having a premature baby was, you know, not ideal. And I think it could have been very stressful and really harrowing and really awful. And, you know, but actually I just kind of, maybe just the way I coped with it was going for every day at a time, making my list, ticking things off, getting it done, just doing one thing at a time. I've always been a list person. So that keeps me zen. That makes me just like my happy place, even if I write way too many lists. And I'm not like a super fit person. I'll just say I don't do exercise. Right? Sorry
for laughing, just because of the conversation we had.
So last night I did my first exercise class in at least 10 years. And it was this trampoline bouncy class. And I literally was like breathing like Darth Vader and looking around the room. Everyone else was just kind of going, I was like, why is no one else dying? Why am I the only person dying here? So, you know, I've made a pact that, you know, I want to become fitter. So for like the last year, I run once a week, maybe 2 miles, 3 if I'm feeling adventurous. That's not very much, but I love sweets. Sweets are like my vice. Like I need sugar to like keep me going. That's my thing. So I'm trying to cut down sugar and trying to just like run once a week, but I'm going on a holiday with my best friend soon. So, you know, I'm trying to build in fitness, and actually everyone says that when you build in fitness, it makes you feel better. And that's great. But then, you know, I missed half an hour of bedtime last night, which made me feel really guilty. So I'm questioning whether I will do that. So time for me isn't high on the agenda. One thing that I have been doing all year long is face yoga. This might be like really
wow weird. Tell me more about this.
So I mean, I'm really, really, really good at taking my makeup off. Like, that sounds like a brag. I'm really good at taking my makeup off. Like, you know, I just think it's really important. I have loads of makeup on every day for work, so I make sure I take it off really gently. Only use it used to be Lizelle cleanse and polish, but that's in a plastic tube. So now I just use, the Body Shop have this tin balm. It's called cleansing balm. It's really inexpensive compared to lots of other brands. You can recycle that tin really easily. Just need a tiny amount, use my cloth, take it off. Feels like you're having a facial every day. And I've got a couple of little oils or like face creams that I put on that are all refillable. And then in the evening, I put on my night cream and I do my face yoga. So I've got an app, and you just have to like roll up your face, or you just kind of roll your forehead, or you go up your neck. And some of them are like relaxing bedtime ones, some of them are jaw, some of them are eyes, some of them are cheeks. And I feel like it's made a difference. Like, we haven't got it before or after people. But yeah, that I feel has like really relaxed me, and it gets me ready for bed, because I usually check emails right up until bedtime, which is silly. So now I stop, do that, and then go straight to sleep. So.
Well, so it's kind of a bit like a gua sha as well, like, you know, with the roller and like like the crystal type thing as well, which I'm a massive advocate of. I think it's brilliant, and you know, the research that's done on it. So you'll like this bit, the research. It's, you know, it really is effective, and obviously you look beautiful. You always do every day.
Well,
so that's how she does it, ladies. That's it. It's face yoga. We're all going to now go to Instagram and go face yoga. Let's find tutorials. Laura, sadly we have run out of time for today, but it's been so wonderful to have you with me.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me. I do what I do all the time, just chat and suck all the oxygen out of a room, which is also bad for the planet.
No, we've learned so much today. We've learned an awful lot today, and that's the thing, is, you know, is we can take these takeaways away today and actually start implementing them in our everyday lives. And, you know, just those small changes, like you say, make a huge difference, make a big impact. So yeah, it's been such an interesting and brilliant chat. So thank you.
Thank you.
If you'd like to keep up with Laura, you can catch her every morning on Good Morning Britain, or follow her adventures on Instagram at Laura Tobin Weather. Laura's fascinating book, Everyday Ways to Save Our Planet, is also available online and in all good bookshops. For more wellbeing, fashion and beauty, you can always visit us at our website, www.thecapsule.co.uk, where you can also catch up with our previous podcast episodes by visiting the In Conversation page or subscribing to any of our podcast channels and YouTube. As always, feel free to leave us your rates and reviews and messages. We would love to hear from you. You can also drop us a message at our Instagram at officialcapsule. So as always, all that's left for me to say today is goodbye. So it's goodbye from Laura.
Bye.
And goodbye from me. Bye bye.